Marhaba, everyone. I think this is my fourth or fifth conference that I've been to in the last 2 months. And this is by far the most diverse audience that I've been to. Looking at all the women data leaders in the room, I think it's safe to say that data is in safe hands right now. No disrespect to men, but I think data can be made more cool, so on and so forth. It's an honor to be here. My name is Waqar Ahmed. I'm the Vice President for Platform Sales at Informatica, looking after Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. I live in Dubai, but I've had the privilege to work in this market and others for over a decade now. So, really pleased to be here, surrounded by the rich history and the dynamic energy of Istanbul. Always love coming back here. My mother, she watches a lot of, Turkish stuff on the TV and, loves the language, always keeps telling me that next time you go, I want to come with you. Unfortunately, this was a last minute thing, so I couldn't bring her over here. But anyways, feel always, whenever I come here, feel like there is an, emotional connection to it. And just like Istanbul, the way the city blends or seamlessly blends the old and new, what I'm going to try and do today in this presentation is try and talk about, the modern data management, how we can bridge the old world to the new world, what are some of the typical challenges around data, what's on top of mind of CDOs, and then what's Informatica's perspective around that. But it's difficult to do justice to this topic in 40 minutes. Right, so we will be here afterwards as well, so feel free to reach out for more conversations. When you talk about data, sometimes when you talk to CDOs, it's just difficult to think where to start and where to end. There are so many organizational challenges that most organizations have to overcome to basically start this transformation journey. Everyone is talking about digital transformation. People are talking about AI, cloud transformation, so many things all together in the mix. And on top of that, there are data challenges. We regularly survey organizations across the board, asking them different types of questions. And I think one of the major challenges that most organizations feel is a fragmented application landscape and infrastructure. Right, you have a legacy on-premise with different applications which are acquired over a period of time. But then you're talking about SaaS-based applications, home-based applications, so on and so forth. Only 22% of the CIOs and CTOs feel that their application landscape is properly integrated and governed. Right? Now, on top of that, when you talk about digital transformation and digital channels of engagement and serving your customers, there is also an explosion of data. So on an average, there's about 10 petabytes of data that an organization manages, a medium to large size of organization. But would you believe that 52% of that data is dark data? What is dark data? Data that no one knows. What does it do? Where does it sit? Who manages or governs it? But most importantly, you cannot convert that data into insights. And without having that manageability across your entire data landscape, then that leads to other challenges as well around decision making. If your business leaders, starting with your CEOs, CFOs, if they don't have access to the right data at the right time, right, it's very difficult to make informed decisions to basically, transform your organization. So this fragmented landscape of applications, data, people, silos within, makes it really, really difficult. And whenever an organization starts this data-driven transformation journey, this usually becomes the major bottleneck to start off with. Now, what are the common data challenges? And I'm sure many of these, there are others as well. I've summarized a few. But the first one usually that comes to mind is, what data do we have, right? It's very difficult for organizations to factually say that what data do we have, how does that data get produced, so on and so forth. So let's look at some of them. Common data challenges: can our business users find the data and reports that they need, right? Analytics has been around for decades. Yeah, even in late 1990s, people were investing in analytics and BI types of solutions. And even today, there are many organizations that struggle with this challenge, that how do we find the data? Can we access the reports? Who are the users that need that report, and what is the latency around that? What happens to the data from creation to consumption? So when you talk about the overall life cycle and journey of data from creation to consumption, do we have visibility and control over that? I think that's also a very common and persistent data challenge. Can we trust the data that we use? I speak with many CDOs who have been on this journey, and they say the first challenge that comes to us whenever we present reports to our business, the business always questions that the data or the reports that you're presenting to us, our data shows something else. The calculations are wrong, the data is wrong, so on and so forth, right? So, developing that data trust within your organization, that when data is being presented to the business users or end users, is that seen as trusted data or not? Data protection, right? You're all data practitioners. Whenever you go and ask business for data, the first thing they ask for is, who's going to use this data? How are you going to use it? Who will you give access to it? So on and so forth, right? So that becomes a major challenge as well. So, right, so protecting customer data, but also ensuring that there are policies and governance in place internally so that data custodians and stewards are comfortable sharing that data with you. So that's also a very common challenge. Is there an authoritative source of data truth, right? I've already spoken about it. And lastly, and more importantly, especially if you are a large organization that operates or has multiple businesses, do you have a single or view of your customers, right? In many organizations, there are more than one CRMs, there are more than one systems where customer data resides, and each and every system has its own view and definition of customer data. So having that single view of a customer across your organizational landscape is also a very common challenge, even within same systems. I live in Dubai, for example. You have every day I get at least 10 or 15 calls from banks, from real estate agencies trying to sell me things without realizing that I'm already a customer in some cases of those banks, already have credit cards with them or something else, right? But since this data is so fragmented, that single view of customer is missing, so organizations struggle with that. Existing data challenges, obviously I've spoken about it, data fragmentation. Data is fragmented, distributed across departments, applications, geographical locations. So that's one of the challenge. Second one is data security and privacy. I've touched upon it already. Data quality and accuracy for AI and automation. Now, every business leader that you talk to, they'll say, we want to digitally transform, we want to do something with AI, we want to have end-to-end automation in place. But what they don't realize is that you cannot do that without solving your data problem first. If that data is not bankable data, then regardless of how much you invest in AI or automation, it is not going to deliver the business results that you expect it to do. Customer experience and personalization. Already gave you an example of that. If I call my bank, or if I call my retailer, or if I call Amazon.com, right? I want them to know me. I don't have, as a customer, I do not have loyalty to a brand. I do not have loyalty to a bank or a telecommunication operator. The only differentiator for me as a customer, and for you as well, is the quality of service and personalization of service that you deliver as an organization. If you're unable to do that, okay, obviously that leads to customer dissatisfaction. And you as an organization cannot achieve that without providing that customer-centric data to the last mile, to your agents, to your salespeople, so on and so forth. Lack of availability and access, it's a common known challenge, and then obviously digital transformation. But in most organizations, there are so many buzzwords and ideas floated around, data fabric is the right way to go. Data mesh is the right way to go. No, we want to do digital transformation. No, we want to start with generative AI. But it's a matter of fact that in most organizations, data is treated as a byproduct of everything that you do. Whereas if we change and pivot that mindset to the fact that the data needs to be treated as a product, not as a byproduct. Now think of it in context of what Frank was saying earlier. The way the technology landscape is moving, historically, you owned your applications, you owned your servers, you owned your databases. When eventually you have modernized to cloud, and I know in Turkey that journey is still at the very beginning because we don't have local data centers, but it is an eventuality because eventually over the next 4 to 5 years, that journey needs to take place. When you're in cloud, you don't own any servers. You do not own any applications. You do not own any databases. The only thing that you own is your data. And you need to start planning for that journey today to lay the foundation so that when you are there, you're well prepared for that. Now, talking about CDOs and data leaders within an organization, right? It's really important to think about how do you position yourself within an organization. Is your function just to support data-related asks or provide BI reports, so on and so forth? Or do you see your role as a true business leader which will drive the transformation for your company or organization going forward? Yeah. And if that is the mindset, then it's also absolutely critical to reflect that in your day-to-day decision-making, do you make unnecessary compromises, right? Compromises like, when you use what you have, you're doing it for ease, not doing it for accuracy, right? If you're just comfortable maintaining the status quo, you're not disrupting, not challenging, then you won't be transforming. Compromise number 2, when you can only find closely accurate data, and you're comfortable with it, that is a compromise, which means that you're compromising on accuracy, which means the decisions that will come out of that closely accurate data will also only be closely accurate. They may hit, they may not hit, Compromise number 3, when you cannot find data easily, you end up wasting time. So when it is difficult to find data, you're sending emails, creating tickets, you're wasting, or a lot of time gets wasted of people around the organization as well, right? That leads to frustration and loss of productivity, for say. And then most importantly, a lot of organizations or people within an organization source data from unofficial and unauthorized sources, which leads to the risk that data cannot be trusted. It's not properly governed. You might be violating privacy and other aspects of it, which could become a major exposure for your organization. And also, when it comes to AI, do you realize, even though AI is really cool, and especially after, even though we have been talking about AI for 4 or 5 years, but since the launch of ChatGPT, right, it has completely we can now feel it, touch it, engage with it, right? So it becomes and feels more real. And this is also one of the reasons why many business leaders want to invest in this area because they see it as a differentiator. But it is a matter of fact that a very high percentage of AI projects fail, and that percentage is over 80%. And one of the major contributing factors towards failure of AI is poor data quality because it leads to bad decisions and outcome. Here's an example. Microsoft, one of the biggest tech companies in the world. On their chatbot, which was supposed to learn tweets, they sent it unfiltered data from Twitter. What that model did was that within 16 hours, it produced or wrote 90 or made 92,000 tweets, which were misogynist, had racist elements or content to it. And it became a major scandal globally, but also and more importantly, highlighted the risks with AI and bad data. There's a common saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? That is absolutely true when it comes to AI. There are a lot of other examples as well, that we can potentially go through. Moving on. But with all that said, all that negativity, right? If you're a glass half full person, if you really see your job as, I want to transform, I am the agent of change within my organization, I think there is no better time to be in data than now. You're talking about convergence of cloud, data, and AI technologies, right? And there is so much that can be done if we can truly harness the value of these things. But the matter of fact is, how do we untap true potential of cloud? How do we untap true potential of data? And how do we untap true potential of AI all working together? Now, some would say that you need a modern data stack. What Informatica says is that you potentially need to rethink what a modern data architecture should look like, right? And there's a very subtle difference between the two. But when you talk about modern data stacks, usually the conversation is, I want to do data governance, let me buy a product for that. I want to do integration or ingestion, let me buy a product for that. I need a data warehouse, I'll buy a product for that. I want to master customer data, product data, there's a product for that, right? And usually where we have seen organizations struggle is because of that stack-based approach, vendor-based approach, not thinking and taking a step back and saying, okay, I might have to solve a very narrow or small business use case today, but how is it going to evolve over the next 4 to 5 years? What are the short-term gains that I want, but what is my vision for the long term, right? And it is absolutely critical that if you are on that journey, you take that modern data architecture approach, think about it, that what are the things and capabilities and use cases and problems that I will potentially have to solve as this journey evolves over a period of time. When you talk about modern data architecture, Informatica's vision and perspective based on our 30 years in the market is that obviously at the end of the day, it's about connecting your data consumers to data sources, right? And the architecture, the principles of the architecture should be built around, independent, neutral, hybrid, and multi-cloud. One. Second one, the platform or the architecture should be open, modular, and flexible, which means that you should not lock yourself into a vendor like you did in the on-premise world, right? By you, I mean, broadly speaking, not specifically you. We have seen with organizations like you buy ESBs, you buy ETL tools from vendors who later on want to sell you ERPs and databases and so on and so forth. That creates a vendor lock-in, and it becomes very difficult to manage. Your data platform or your data architecture should be open, modular, and flexible. Complete and best of breed, which means that you may not need everything today. You may not have to solve every business problem or use case on day one, but eventually, as your data practice becomes mature, you will have to solve those problems. So when you are making a decision or taking a decision that what our data architecture is going to look like I said before, take that long-term view, buy for the short term, but take that long-term view. So complete and best of breed. Obviously, it has to be secure, should support the modern architecture of the future as well. We are moving towards elastic and serverless and those types of things. Again, in Turkey, you may not be needing it today, but as you evolve, those architectural options will become really important as the data scale and volumes grows. And then obviously no code, low code, citizen integrators, so on and so forth. Even though everyone likes to code, especially the new engineers or the young kids like to code, that creates technical debt within an organization. And it creates dependency on individuals. From an organizational standpoint, the platform should be no code, low code, because then you can focus on more high value skills within the organization. So what are the key tenets of that modern data architecture? Some of these have been there for ages, right? Obviously, you have to figure out that what your integration landscape is going to look like. Now, historically, data integration has been about ETL, extract, transform, and load into a data warehouse. Today, it's not that. Reason being that while you still have to serve your BI and analytics use cases, but to drive your AI and ML use cases, digital transformation use cases, you will need a multi-latency integration architecture, which means real-time landing of data into data lakes, real-time access of customer activity data, let's say, to AI and ML models, if you have an e-commerce platform, so on and so forth. And there are about 8 or 9 different integration patterns and use cases that you have to think about, which form the core of your integration layer. So you have to take that holistic approach towards integration and what you could or could not need. The second one is master data management. Single view of customers, products, services, anything that you can think of within your organization, across your organization. So mastering your data also becomes a key tenet of your organization. Now, many organizations don't start with this on day one, but successful CDOs do plan for it and think about it, that if they are developing their data strategy and modern data architecture, in the future, this will become a critical tenet. Third one is there cannot be any conversation on data without data cataloging, data quality and observability, data governance, and privacy. But what's missing is that you will have to do it at scale. You're not talking about cataloging 2 or 3 databases, so on and so forth. The data volume is exploding, right? So having the ability of planning from an architectural standpoint where you can catalog data at scale across your organization, regardless of the vendor that you work with, managing end-to-end data quality and observability, and most importantly, data governance and privacy, especially for organizations who operate in a highly regulated governance regime. Yeah. And when you talk about data governance and privacy, your exposure, or you're not only bound to the governance policies within your country, if you operate, let's say, in Europe or within the EU zone, or if you have clients in America, so on and so forth, or you sell them products or buy products from them, right? Data governance, so the governance regime is quite expanded as well. API management, API-based integration. So when you talk about sharing data, democratization of data, right? It's not just about taking data in, it's also then sharing that data or having that automation capability within your organization and within your ecosystem. And last one, obviously, is the platform or the architecture should be open to integrating and interacting with other data-related tools as well that you may end up choosing, right? There is obviously data marketplace and data product, API-based data product democratization as well. This is one of the most interesting, even more than BI, right? I've seen organizations where invested millions of dollars on BI-related use cases and then still struggle with, with their business users because business users don't understand what data is available. So to give them that e-commerce-like capability where they can interact not just with the data teams, but also with data sets which are, or data products which are available within the organization. Now the challenge is, this all sounds quite good, yeah, but it's not going to be easy. Now, when I meet with CDOs, the first thing I ask, okay, why do you want to go down this journey? And 9 out of 10 times, the common answer is, we want to break data silos. Yeah, there are data silos within our organization, and we want to break them. But the strategy they end up adopting is, they end up adopting a data management platform which is fragmented itself. And these two things or challenges don't marry up. So on one side, you're saying, we want to break data silos, but then the platform which is supposed to manage this data and break this data silos is siloed itself, right? So if you look at the data management market today, there are over 260 vendors which would solve some or part of this problem. Right? Some would do integration, some would do cataloging, yeah. Some would do ETL, some do observability, there's a data marketplace product, so on and so forth. And it becomes your headache and your job to stitch it all together, if you can. Informatica's approach towards that is that we are the only vendor on the market. The only vendor on the market that foresaw, and you saw that in Frank's presentation as well, 7, 8 years ago, we perceived that this is the direction the market is going. We had a vision not just for our platform, but we also set the vision for the market. The future of data management is a platform-based approach, an open, scalable, vendor-neutral platform that would not hold you from adopting IBM, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google, whichever vendor you wanted to work with. But most importantly, what that platform would do, firstly, it will break that product-based approach. Cataloging is not a product. Data governance is not a product. Data quality is not a product. Integration, ingestion, master data management is not a product. These are use cases and business problems that you want to solve at different stages of your journey. And Informatica's platform today is the only platform on the market that supports that vision, which is you can start really, really small with one business problem, but as and when you scale and you want to solve new use cases, the platform allows you to do that because it's a microservices-based platform that allows you to do that. So today on Informatica Data Management Platform, we support over 25 data management related use cases and services, ranging from everything that we have spoken about today. But more importantly, it's built on a common AI engine, which is called CLAIRE. This is Informatica's proprietary engine, which has and currently processes over 35 petabytes of metadata, is constantly learning. And to my point earlier where I was talking about no code, low code, and how do you basically help data users and stewards interacting with the platform, how do you make their life easier? I'll come to it in more details in the coming slide. We also provide out-of-the-box connectivity to anything that you can think of. You want to scan SAP that you bought 20 years ago, or you want to scan Salesforce or Google BigQuery, or a new application that one of your star developers has written, right? Informatica provides you that capability. We ensure that you stay vendor neutral. Why it is important, like unlike in the old world where if you bought Teradata or if you bought Netezza or Exadata, you're stuck with it for 10, 15 years because it's a big investment. What I'm seeing in my current role, working with a lot of organizations, especially in Europe, who are fairly advanced, or let's say 3 or 4 year advanced when it comes to cloud adoption. There's a new term which is called as cloud fluidity. I've seen customers buy Snowflake, 3, 4 months down the line, either they bought another data warehouse or adopted another data warehouse for another business use case or completely replaced. I've seen the opposite as well. Clients started off with my Azure Synapse and added Snowflake or completely transformed or moved towards Snowflake or Azure Redshift, right? And when you move to cloud, one of the, other than cost, one of the main drivers towards that journey is flexibility. No one wants vendor locked in. What Informatica supports with its architecture is that you will get that flexibility. You want to move from Snowflake to Azure, it's just switching a connector. Your logic and everything else stays intact. We've taken it a step further, and Frank alluded towards that as well. We've added a lot of industry-specific accelerators as well, right, to the platform. Like if you work in retail, you work in finance, manufacturing, so on and so forth, there are a lot of industry-related accelerators as well. And those industry-related accelerators are driven by our CLAIRE and AI engine. And last year, we added support for ESG and sustainability. Now, sustainability conversation is usually a buzzword, especially in the developing countries, right? We talk about it, but what's happening, especially in Europe now, that ESG reporting is becoming mandatory, which also is going to impact you because firstly, you're based in that region, even though if you're not part of EU, but if you're supplying products, selling products to companies in Europe, right, they will ask you for ESG data because they are mandated, right? And that is going to add that extra layer of responsibility and stress on the organizations over here. Now, when you talk about doing things at scale, I know Frank briefly spoke about it as well. It's not just any data management platform. There is no other vendor in the world, no other data management vendor in the world that processes 61 trillion transactions per month on data platform. But we do that while ensuring that you stay compliant. If you don't want your data to leave Turkey, as an example, the data stays within the country. We support hybrid architecture. We support on-premise to on-premise architecture as well, while giving you that flexibility and future-proofing as well, that in the future, if you want to move towards cloud or go hybrid or full SaaS, without any new investments, the platform allows you to do that. What we are also very proud of is this 35 petabytes of metadata, right? So it's not just a dumb software solution where you can build mappings or write business logic. The platform is always learning, using that metadata intelligence into our CLAIRE-based engine. And it was already helping in making lives of platform administrators easier. But with the launch of ChatGPT, we have taken it a step further. And there are two really interesting capabilities which are available. One is CLAIRE Copilot. What is CLAIRE Copilot? CLAIRE Copilot is that if you are a system user and you're within the system, and let's say you want to build mappings, you want to write rules, you want to catalog data, you want to classify data, the platform using AI gives recommendations to the user. So let's say you're building a mapping, it will tell you after this, add this step, add that step, so on and so forth. If you're building a mapping, it will tell you this data flow that you're building, there's a data quality issue in that. So it will give you those types of recommendations, and it makes your life a lot easier as a user of the platform, enhances your productivity, and we're only getting started on that. The second one is CLAIRE GPT, which is more of a chat-based interface. And like you interface with ChatGPT, it allows you to interact with the platform. How? Let's take a look at this example. This is a live demo of that, where you can go on CLAIRE and say, show lineage of sales KPI, or show data assets feeding into sales KPIs. What it does, it goes back, queries your systems, and brings out a lineage, yeah? Just through interaction, yeah? Now, from a business user standpoint, this could become really powerful. And it's conversational, so you can then take it to the next step as well. You can, keep conversing with the platform and, truly enhance your productivity. The last one it is saying is that now that it has analyzed, create a mapping from enriched data to, and load that data into a data warehouse. And what Claire and ChatGPT has done, it has automatically created a mapping and taken it live if you have authorized this to do. So really, really powerful. But remember, we are just in the first 3 to 6 months. The potential with this is huge. There's a preview available of that. So if you're interested, feel free to sign up. But ChatGPT has gotten a lot of executives excited as well, which means if you place it right within your organization, you can go out there and find budgets to basically support these projects. There's a recent Gartner poll that said that 45% of the executives say ChatGPT has prompted an increase in AI investment, and 70% of the organizations are looking at it, and we hope your organization is one of them as well. When you talk about cloud, like I said earlier, we're not forcing you to cloud. We're giving you a bridge. We understand it's a journey. We understand that you operate in a very tight regulatory regime around data residency, right? So like I said earlier, if your data cannot leave Turkey, the architecture allows you to support that. But having said that, we also have a long legacy of thousands of customers who were using our on-premise ETL solutions like PowerCenter. And we've given them 2 options forward. One is to completely modernize, right? Like they were using PowerCenter, and now the architecture is SaaS, and they right away want to move towards SaaS. So we had this program called as PowerCenter Modernization that we launched about 2 or 3 years ago. Some of the largest organizations like Volvo, so on and so forth, they've already gone down that journey and been very, very successful. And then there are others who said that I only want to take a baby step forward, which is I'm planning for cloud, I want to move in that direction, but I'm not ready to replace PowerCenter on day one, right? And for those customers, we have offered that, CDI for PowerCenter capability. We are more than happy to discuss more and share more details around that if you are interested. The third one is, you can say that, Waqar, it's very nice to talk about a big architecture and planning for the future. But when we go for procurement, it's always we have to budget for products. We have to buy products individually, right? And then that becomes counterintuitive to the overall strategy that you were talking about, that we may be taking a platform approach, maybe taking a modern data architecture-based approach. But from a procurement standpoint, if it is only use case driven, then a licensing model should support that as well. And this is one of the reasons why 2-3 years back, Informatica reinvented its licensing model, right? Which is purely consumption-based. It's not product or use case driven, right? The only thing that customers buy who are subscribing to our IDMC platform is IPU pricing. And then depending on your journey, your first problem that you want to solve is cataloging, or is it data quality, or is it ingestion, or it changes through the month, through the year, yeah? The flexible licensing model allows you to do that. With one IPU or one licensing model, you will have access to over 25 data management services and use cases. And it comes down to you to set the priority that how do you want to use those IPUs and what is priority number 1. So I think this is also a game changer when it comes to, from a procurement standpoint as well, and from a strategy standpoint as well, if needed. And at the end, I'm here. I think in Turkish you say çok şükür. Is that right? I don't know if I pronounced it right, but thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and happy to.